Hello guys! Good day to everyone, no? Happy Monday. Well, definitely na-miss ko itong ating online class na mag-record din si ma'am, no? So, ayun, no, na-miss ko talaga na mag-record ng klase natin kasi feeling vlogger ako kapag ganito yung setup ng aking classroom. Anyway, so hindi na natin patagalin yung ating chika in the morning. I am going to discuss today the cascading style shirts. Supposedly, we are going to discuss this face-to-face. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, we have to get ready for our presentation on Wednesday or this coming Wednesday. Kaya po I decided to make this class online. We for this lesson, we are going to discuss cascading style sheets. And as you remember, now we already have discussed a couple of things on how to do it when we discussed lesson 5, I think, if I remember it correctly, about HTML tables. So, na-discuss natin siya abruptly. But right now, we are going to deep dive more into cascading style sheets. What I noticed when I am checking your partial activity for hands-on exercise number 4, majority of you already uses cascading style sheets. And I know that some of you actually downloaded templates online. I did not stop you from doing that. I didn't discourage you from downloading such templates. It's up to you as long as you know how to use them. Now, for cascading style sheets, our lesson objectives are as follows. You should be able to understand the fundamentals of CSS, including the idea of selectors, methods of setting colors rather, and backgrounds. Also, way of formatting fonts and text, styling, user interface elements, etc. We should be able to understand as well the concept of internal and external CSS. Now, as we can see on the screen, cascading style sheets, or CSS for short, is a simple design language intended to simplify the process of making web pages presentable. So, meaning to say, talagang ito, ginagamit na siya to design, to form the layout better, para mas maganda siyang tingnan with the eyes of our users. CSS handles the look and feel part of a web page. Using CSS, you can control the color of the text, the style of fonts, the spacing between paragraphs, how columns are sized and laid out, what background images are colors are used, layout designs, variations in display for different devices, and screen sizes, as well as a variety of other effects. Ano ba yung advantages kapag gumagamit tayo ng CSS? Because without this, we can also make a design naman in a plain HTML or sa loob ng body using its elements. Pero bakit ba natin kailangan mag-create ng cascading style sheets? So, the advantage are as follows. The first one is to save time. With CSS, once na nakapaggawa na kayo nito, you can reuse the same style sheet in multiple HTML pages. You can define a style for each HTML element and apply it to as many web pages as you want. So, I think I was able to discuss this to you on our previous session, no? Sabi ko nga dati, when you have this, if you have multiple web pages already, pwede na kayong mag-reuse ng inyong cascading style sheets. There's no need for you to rewrite the entire codes. So, the second advantage of CSS is that your pages load faster. If you are using CSS, you do not need to write the HTML tag attributes every time. Just write once the CSS rule of a tag and apply it to all the occurrences of that tag. So, less code means faster download times. Now, for example, kasi if you have a lot of elements in your web page already and hindi ka gumamit ng CSS, what you need to do is to copy and paste all of the attributes that you wanted to change for such element, and then the tendency is for the file size of your web pages to become larger. If that happens, of course, the download time frame of the user who is going to view your web page will take longer as well. So with the CSS, that will be avoided already. Third is the easy maintenance. To make a global change, simply change the style and all elements in all web pages will be updated automatically. So, pag sinabi natin global change, you wanted to change the entire design or layout that you applied that you wanted to apply to all of your web pages. Hindi mo na siya kailangang isa-isahin na kada HTML file, magbabago ka ng attributes. With the external CSS, pwede mo nang gawin yon once, and then it can be applied to all of the web pages kung saan mo in-apply yung CSS na yon. The fourth one is the superior styles to HTML. CSS has a much wider array of attributes than HTML. So you can give a far better look to your HTML page in comparison to HTML attributes. The next is multiple device compatibility. Style sheets allow content to be optimized for more than one type of device. By using the same HTML document, different versions of a website can be presented for handheld devices such as PDAs or personal digital assistants, and cell phones for printing. So remember, you don't know if your user is going to use a laptop, a computer, a mobile device, or a tablet or an iPad. We don't know that. So what we know is that majority and general of your users might be using their mobile phones to view your web pages, or some other will be laptops. However, we are not certain. So as a developer of a web page, with the use of CSS, we can actually optimize the compatibility kahit ano pa mang device ang gamit ng user. At katulad nga nung nabanggit kanina, it has superior styles dahil sa dami ng mga attributes na pwede nating palitan for CSS. We can do it much better with the use of CSS instead of changing the appearance of your web page using the elements. No? So, lastly, it has global web standards. Now, HTML attributes are being deprecated and it is being recommended to use CSS. When we say HTML attributes, for example, sa paragraph, you wanted to change the alignment of a paragraph element. If you wanted to do that, you have to access the attribute of paragraph inside its tag. Now, pag sinabing deprecated, dinidiscourage na gawin yung ganong klase ng pagpapalit ng properties or attributes. Kasi nga, pinopromote na gagawin or gamitin si CSS para mas maging optimized, mas madaling palitan yung styles and design ng ating web pages. And besides, it should not be put together with the content of your web page. Somehow, dapat meron tayong division or pagkakabukod kung ano yung laman ng HTML or web page natin rather, versus dun sa mga attributes na gusto nating palitan na makikita naman sa design on the look and feel of our web pages. So those are some of the advantages of CSS, and I can still think of a lot of things para maging gamitin natin ng CSS when it comes to designing. Ilan lang ito sa mga advantages. Now, let's move forwards on this question. Who creates and maintains CSS? CSS is created and maintained through a group of people within the W3C called the CSS Working Group. So remember, W3C is the worldwide Web Consortium. So, sila yung nagme-maintain ng lahat ng mga standards, guidelines to be exact, on how web should be created. The CSS working group creates documents called specifications. So, sila yung nag-specify kung ano ba yung na-discuss at officially ni-ratified ng mga miyembro ng W3. So again, no, sila yung nag-ratify na, I mean, yung officially na pag-usapan ng members ng W3C, sila yung CSS working groups na nag-create ng document and the specifications. Now, with those kind of discussions, nabubuo yung tinatawag nating recommendation on how to create a CSS and including on how to make web development or how to develop a web. Sorry about that. So these ratified specifications are called recommendations, just like what I've mentioned a while ago, because the W3C has no control over the actual implementation of the language. So when we say they don't really have a control, because web development is actually like, alam niyo yan, parang malaya ka kung ano talaga yung gusto mong style na gawin. What they can only give to us, like to us web developers, ay recommendations kung paano dapat gawin ang web pages. So, independent companies and organizations create that software. Now, the implementation of that ay kanya-kanya, depende sa kung anong gagamitin ng company. Sometimes they just purchase yung mga commercial software, and yung iba naman gumagamit lang ng mga free software. So, it's up to you. And they have almost the same fundamentals. It just so happened that it has different way of implementing such language. So please take note that the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, is a group that makes recommendations only about how the internet works and how it should evolve. Now, let's proceed to the syntax on how CSS is made. No, ito yung iba sa inyo, I'm pretty sure na marami nang nagagawa na CSS. So, meron lang tayong ilang terminologies na kailangang maging familiar ang lahat para kahit na hindi ka masyadong nag-hands-on activities, is maintindihan mo din kung paano ba ito ginagawa ng classmate mo. So, a CSS comprises of style rules that are interpreted by the browser and then applied to the corresponding elements in your document. A style rule is made of 3 parts. So, meron tayong tinatawag na selector, property, and value. A selector is an HTML tag at which a style will be applied. This could be any tag like H1 or table tag, etc. So, all of those tags na inaglagay natin sa web pages natin are called selectors. Kung ano man yung element na gusto mong baguhin, you have to identify that kind of selector. Next is the property. It's a type of attribute of HTML tag. Put simply, all the HTML attributes are converted into CSS properties. They could be color, border, width, height, size, name, ano pa ba, and so on and so forth. So, ibig sabihin, ma'am, lahat po ng attributes ng HTML tag ay tawag na po ngayon ay property. The answer is, of course, yes. And then lastly, the value. These are assigned to properties. So, for example, if you wanted to change the color of the border, you have to put in the color name, or kaya naman yung hexadecimal color, o kaya katulad dito, hash F1, F1, F1 is an example of a hexadecimal color, o kaya naman yung red, green, blue combination of colors, etc. That kind of example has been shown to you already from the previous face-to-face that we had. So, the next is, ito na po yung appearance ng ating CSS, no? As you can see, meron tayong example dito. Ginagamit natin si table element. Yun po yung ating selector. Under declaration sa loob ng open and close curly braces, doon natin ilalagay yung ating property. Kung ano yung property na gusto nyo palitan. On this example, border yung ating pinapalitan, followed by colon, and then the values of that property. So on this example that is showing on your screen, we are changing the property of table, border, and then the values we put are as follows: 1 pixels, solid border, and a color of hash C00. So here the table is a selector and border is a property of CSS, is the value of that property. So that is our what do you call that? That is our example. Now, to make it much better to explain, magagawa po tayo ng short example on how to apply CSS para sa kaalaman ng lahat. Of course, I'm not expecting that everybody knows this already. And I'm really glad that my students, majority of you, as I can see, are very much interested in it. Marami sa inyo nag-a-advance study, nag-check ng mga online tools kung paano palitan yung ganito, ganyan. And I'm really proud of you doing that kasi yun naman talaga dapat ang ginagawa natin, no? So whatever we had in the classroom or whatever your instructor taught you is madadagdagan yun kung kayo ay interesado pa doon sa topic. Ang magyayari lang yun kung kayo ay re-research on your own. So dito, I'm just gonna open a text editor. We are going to use again a Sublime for this example. Alright, so I have opened my Sublime text editor. Just a quick guide, guys. I would advise you to save your file as an HTML file already, kahit wala pa siyang laman. Bakit po, ma'am? Para si Sublime, whatever you type is magre-recommend na siya ng mga tags na possible na yun ang gagamitin mo depending on what letter you type first, no? So dito I am going to save this, ilagay ko na lang siya sa panibagong folder. Okay, hold on, CSS examples. Alright, so dito, I will just save it, sample1.html. Okay, so this is an example of an internal CSS, no? Lalagyan ko lang siya ng title na internal CSS. And then, inside the body of my text editor, dun ko ilalagay yung aking, start lang tayo sa konti lang, no? Paragraph lang. So, let's say City College of Calamba. Close natin si paragraph. So for example, dalawa yung paragraph na meron ako. Calamba City, Laguna. Okay, so as you can see on my example, I have 2 paragraphs. If I wanted to change the property of such elements, all I need to do is to create a style sheet for that. Now, if you remember, I told you that all of the styles that we are going to put or to apply to our HTML should be inside the metadata of using the head tag, no? Sa loob ng head tag, doon natin ilalagay yung tinatawag nating style. So we have to indicate the style element, and inside the opening and closing style element, doon natin ilalagay yung ating first, of course, yung ating selector. In this case, ang example natin is paragraph. So I'm gonna type in P for paragraph. Sa loob ng open and close curly braces, doon natin ilalagay lahat ng properties and values that we wanted to change. So, for example, gusto kong palitan yung color ng aking paragraph to, let's say, to blue, no? When I type in blue, papili tayo dito, dark blue. Tapos, as you can see, si Sublime naman, kinocomplete na niya yung statement mo, no? Pwede ko ding palitan yung text alignment ko. So, for example, gusto ko naka-center align ito. And then, yung font size, no? Font size. So, lagay ko siya sa 50 pixels. Now, ito yung ating style. Of course, i-cut ko muna yon. I'm gonna save it. And we are going to open the example that we made. Hold on. Let me open a window. So, hands-on exercises, sample activities, CSS example, sample 1. So, bubuksan natin siya, no? Nandito yung ating sample 1. As you can see, it's just plain paragraph. And then, we are going to reapply yung ating style. So, save ko to. When we go back to the browser and refresh it, whatever style that we apply to paragraph will also appear na on our outcome. So, as you can see, madali na nating nababago lahat ng paragraphs na meron tayo. Now, this example that we made so far is an example of, internal cascading style sheets. So, as you can see, again, just a quick recap, no, sa loob ng style tag natin, na nasa loob ng head tag, ilalagay lahat ng style na meron tayo. So, again, on this example, ang ating selector ay paragraph. Ang ating mga properties are as follows: color, text align, and font size. And the values of each properties are dark blue, center, and the 50 pixels. So, that's how we change the properties of our elements using CSS. So, in CSS, actually, meron tayong dalawang tinatawag na selectors, no? Ano po, ma'am, yung selector? So, don't worry about this explanations that I'm going to give you from now on. Ang ito naman ay nasa module na natin or lecture, no? Sa CSS selectors, meron tayong tinatawag na element or type selectors. So, mga ano po yung element or type selectors? So, the element selectors selects HTML elements based on the element name. So, for example, if you save your example as css1.html, it is an example of element or type selectors. Kapag naman yung pangalawa nating CSS selector is an ID selector, what does it mean? No? ID selector. The ID selector uses the ID attribute of an HTML element to select a specific element. Actually, naibigay ko na itong example sa inyo before. Magpapakita na lang tayo ng another example this time, no? So, to select an element with a specific ID, write the hashtag character followed by the ID of that element. So, going back on our sample 1, for example, magkakaroon ako dito ng another paragraph, no? Let's say, welcome to CCC. O, dumami. Alright, so yeah, no, meron tayong tatlong paragraphs, but on the third one, I am going to assign an ID to the third paragraph. So, for example, papangalanan ko to na welcome. Now, on this example that we had, if we are going to view the outcome, let's take a look first now without me changing to a specific ID selector first. So, itong example natin na sinig na to, this one is already an element or type selector. Yung number 1 kong ipinakita sa inyo. This is already an element or type selector. Kasi, sa example na pinakita natin, ginamit lang natin yung element mismo ng ating na paragraph na gusto nating palitan. So, for example, kung in the future, meron ka dyan heading 1, heading 2, meron kang iba't ibang elements na ginamit na sa loob ng body, kapag i-access mo yung selector na yun with its element only, then that's what you call the element or type selector. Now, kapag ka ID selector na ang pinag-uusapan, ina-access mo yung property ng specific ID na yon ng element kung saan mo siya inassign. Now, on this example, what I am going to do is to change the same properties of that paragraph. However, for for the for the welcome, no, itong ating welcome paragraph na ito, meron akong specific na changes lang na gusto kong gawin sa kanya. For example, dahil inassignan ko siya ng ID na welcome, sabi ko nga kanina, kailangan i-access natin yung ID name niya with the use of hash and then kung ano yung ID na ginamit natin. So, on this example, welcome yung nilagay ko. Now, let's say, on that specific element, gusto ko palitan yung color niya, hindi na ng dark blue, kundi ang i-apply ko, for example, ay yellow-green, no? Okay, so for example, yellow-green. But the text alignment and the font size, or the text alignment is going to be the same. The font size is going to be, let's say, larger, no? So, gusto ko larger siya. As you can see, no, pareho silang paragraph, but for the third paragraph, gusto ko may specific color siya na hindi ka pareho nung dalawa. So, that is why I created the ID for that third paragraph, and yun yung tinawag ko dito sa aking ID selector. So, I'm going to save the changes and go back dun sa aking outcome. So, as you can see, no, the alignment is still the same, it's center, and then ang naiba lang is yung color at yung size ng ating paragraph na pangatlo.